Unveiling the Sacred, 7 Miraculous Truths about Leviathan and Behemoth revealed in God's plan. In the land of Uz, during the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, there lived a man named Job, perfect and upright, who feared God and shunned evil. His reputation for integrity resonated far and wide, as a beacon of righteousness amidst the chaos of a world bent on sin. Job was a patriarch, blessed with great wealth, a large household, and children who brought him unending joy. Days filled with laughter echoed through his halls as they gathered to offer sacrifices to Yahweh, seeking his favor in worship. Yet even the most faithful are not exempt from trials. As the sun set on his prosperity, shadows began to loom over Job's serene life, whispers of chaos danced on the horizon. A tempest rose, casting doubt and despair, as calamity struck without warning. In a series of devastating blows, Job lost his servants, his livestock, and all 10 of his children, consumed by a whirlwind of misfortune. Gradually, his health deteriorated, and painful sores covered his body, a testament to his inexplicable suffering. As he sat among the ashes, despondent, Job's heart was heavy with anguish. Each day blurred into the next, and the voices of his friends mingled with accusations, murmuring doubts over his integrity. "Perhaps hidden sin dwells within you, Job," they suggested, each word like daggers, cutting deeper into his already shattered spirit. In the lonely stillness, Job cried out, his voice piercing the silence, "Why has the Almighty brought such pain upon me?" His pleas echoed into the heavens, a desperate quest for understanding. Amid this turmoil, the heavens grew dark. A hurricane swirled above Uz, as a storm brewed, rich with divine purpose. Suddenly, the voice of God thundered through the tempest. "Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge?" His commanding words etched themselves in the air, demanding attention. "Prepare yourself like a man, I will question you, and you shall answer me," God declared, while Job trembled, both nervous and eager. With the might of creation unfurling before him, God unveiled mysteries woven into the fabric of existence. "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundations? Who marked off its dimensions?" Each question beckoned Job to ponder the vastness of divine wisdom, stretching far beyond the limits of human understanding. Then God spoke of Behemoth, the powerful creature, a living testament to his might. "Look at Behemoth," he exclaimed, "which I made along with you. It eats grass like an ox, its strength unparalleled." Job listened, captivated by the image of this colossal beast, an embodiment of God's unmatched authority. As God continued, a shiver coursed through Job's soul when Leviathan was mentioned. Can you catch Leviathan with a hook or tie down its tongue with a rope? The fearsome creature of the deep was depicted as a force no man could tame, representing the raw power of creation uncontrolled and sovereign. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. Job stood at the precipice of revelation, grappling with the enormity of God's plan laid out before him. The tempest raged on, the majestic truths weaving a tapestry that laid bare his frailty against divine authority. Would Job, in the midst of suffering and mystery, yield to a trust in the Almighty who orchestrated creation and ultimately defined his existence? As the winds howled and the depths of understanding beckoned, Job awaited the unfolding of God's design, eager for resolution amidst the chaotic storms of his life. Then the Lord continued, speaking to Job from the tempest with a voice that echoed across the skies. "Will you discredit my justice? Will you condemn me to justify yourself? Do you have an arm like God's, and can your voice thunder like his?" The very foundation of Job's understanding trembled at the weight of divine righteousness. "Deck yourself now with majesty and splendor, and array yourself with glory and beauty," God commanded. Look at Behemoth, which I made as I made you. You do not grasp the strength of my creations, yet you question my ways? The mighty Behemoth, a creature known for its power, was a demonstration of God's sovereignty and creative prowess. Its tail sways like a cedar, its bones like tubes of bronze. It hailed as God's masterpiece, thriving in the shadow of the Almighty. God turned then to Leviathan, the great serpent of the sea. Can you put a hook into its nose, or pierce its jaw with a ring? Will it make supplications to you or speak soft words to you? Job felt the heat of those questions weigh upon him. He understood that the Lord brought forth life by command. Every beast of the field and creature of the sea was at his behest, existing under his unwavering authority. Who can confront me? God's words reverberated like a peal of thunder. Or who can stand before me? The questions pierced Job to the core, revealing the limits of his understanding. You ask of my justice, but do you comprehend my might? Each divine inquiry sharpened Job's perspective, redirecting his gaze from his own despair to the majesty of the Creator who fashioned the heavens and established the earth. In the presence of such omnipotence, Job began to feel the tendrils of despair loosen around his heart. The Lord's manifest power, revealed in the grandeur of his creatures, initiated a stirring within him. Perhaps, he pondered, this suffering held a purpose beyond his human comprehension. Would you disannul my judgment? Would you condemn me, that you may be righteous? Each declaration from God revealed the intricate complexity of life, a life infused with mystery, suffering intertwined with divine love. And yet, Job's resolve began to shift. Wrapped in the whirlwind of divine declaration, his spirit awakened. I have uttered what I did not understand, he murmured within his heart, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. Job's heart braced for a deeper revelation, an understanding of God's nature that was not merely transactional, but relational and profoundly eternal. The resolute purpose behind his trials began to emerge, a reflection of God's sovereignty that held all life, his own suffering included, within an everlasting plan. At that moment, the whirlwind calmed for an instant, and a clarity passed over Job. I repent in dust and ashes, he declared, humbling himself before the throne of grace, recognizing his limits before God's infinite wisdom. And the Lord spoke once more, I will not allow my servant to suffer without purpose. For the afflictions you endure are but a shadow of a greater glory to be revealed. The truth of Job's journey resonated in the heavens, a testament to the unfolding of God's sovereign plan. With these words, the earth itself seemed to resonate with divine anticipation. Job understood, though partially, that there was a resolution that far surpassed his trials, a narrative extending beyond his immediate plight. Little did he know, the culmination of God's purpose was yet to be unveiled, a restoration that would echo through generations, revealing not only the depth of his faith but the depths of God's love. But as the heavens awaited, a question lingered in the air, pregnant with divine suspense. What would transpire next in the tapestry of God's unfolding story, one that was rich with grace, redemption, and an eternal promise? Then the Lord spoke again, and his voice rose like the morning sun breaking through the shadows, casting light upon what was hidden. Job, brace yourself like a man, I will ask you, and you will answer me. The air thickened with anticipation, for Job knew he stood on holy ground, a servant drawn into the divine inquiry of the Almighty. Have you ever commanded the morning or caused the dawn to know its place? The question rolled over Job like an ocean wave, washing away remnants of pride. What authority had he, a mere mortal, to command daybreak? Have you entered the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? The enormity of God's creative power pulsed through his words, tethering them to the mysteries of the universe, mysteries Job had never contemplated. The Lord continued, where is the way to the dwelling of light? And where is the place of darkness, that you may take it to its territory, and that you may discern the paths to its home? In the echoing silence, Job felt the vastness of the divine wisdom, an unfathomable depth in which he had merely skimmed the surface. Revelation dawned upon him, for he began to understand. The Creator held the fabric of the universe within his hands, weaving together light and darkness with sovereign design. God spoke of the storehouses of snow and the hail reserved for the day of battle. What is the way of the eagle in the sky, or the serpent upon the rock? Can you command the stars, set forth the constellations in their season? With each question, the ground beneath Job shifted. He realized that the mystery of creation and its design was woven into a tapestry far greater than he had perceived. Not only was he part of this design, but his suffering bore connection to the eternal purpose of God's love and sovereignty. Job fell silent, grasping the magnitude of divine truth. His heart stirred within him as understanding crept into the recesses of his mind. If I cannot comprehend the paths of creation, how can I question the pathways of providence? He pondered. The realization settled upon him like a cloak. He knew not only of the world around him but also of the divine narrative that unfolded, revealing a purpose so grand. Job, the Lord declared with piercing clarity, will you disannul my judgment? Are you as mighty as I that you consider my ways unjust? The weight of these words wrapped around Job like a shroud. He had spoken without knowledge, yet the righteous judge remained steadfast, offering grace in the face of human frailty. In that moment, Job heard the whisper of God's heart, a call to surrender, to trust in the depths of his goodness. It echoed the truth of the psalmist, great is our Lord, and of great power, his understanding is infinite, Psalm 147 verse 5. The pain of the past lingered, but honor and wisdom beckoned him to look beyond his afflictions towards the grace awaiting on the horizon. And as the atmosphere shifted once more, God revealed, for the purpose of your trials could not be reckoned without the testimony of unyielding faith. I will restore to you the years the locust has eaten, you shall come forth as gold refined in the fire. The promise shimmered like the stars distant yet within reach, a reality that resonated with every heartbeat. As Job received this profound assurance, a seed of hope rooted itself deeply within his soul, a glimmer of a purpose woven into the very fabric of his trials. But with it, the horizon peered forth another divine enigma. What greater trials lay ahead? What depths of faith would be required still? In the unfolding of God's sovereign plan, one undeniable truth emerged: the journey of redemption was far from complete, and the echo of glory still awaited its revelation. Then the Lord continued to speak, his voice carrying the weight of eternity. Job, have you ever seen the great sea creature Leviathan, which I created as a part of my wondrous design? The heavens held their breath, and with it, Job's spirit trembled at the magnitude of what awaited him. Can you draw out Leviathan with a fishhook? Or press down his tongue with a cord? The questions danced like fireflies in the twilight, illuminating the depths of God's power. Can you put a rope in his nose or pierce his jaw with a hook? Each of these words reverberated within Job, awakening a realization that this creature was not just a being but a testament to God's majesty and the unfathomable mysteries he governs. As God painted a picture of the Leviathan, its scales impenetrable, its movements like thunder upon the waves, Job felt the weight of his own frailty. Who can stand before him? Who can resist his majestic terror? The Lord inquired, drawing Job's attention to the awe of creation itself. Yet I, the Lord, would have you know that he is under my dominion. Job found himself grappling with the truth unveiled. The very forces of nature, the wild and untamed, were but instruments of God's command. As I commanded the morning, God continued, so too I command the might of Leviathan. Do you now see the tapestry I have woven, Job? For it is in creature and creation that my purposes are revealed. With a trembling heart, Job realized how intertwined his existence was with the divine destiny manifesting in the world around him. Leviathan, fearsome as he was, existed to glorify the Creator. God's authority extended far beyond the heavens and into the abyss. It was woven into the very fabric of every living thing. Now consider Behemoth, God declared, whom I made just as I have made you. His strength is in his loins, rooted in the earth. He stands as a testament to the abundance of life I have spoken into being. The Lord spoke of the vastness and certainty of Behemoth, the great beast who ate grass like an ox, thriving within the land God had provided. Can you tame him as you would a pet? Or shall he bow to your command? Job felt the depth of his smallness contrasted against the grandeur of God's creation. He is not merely an animal, he embodies my sovereignty and the order of my creation. In this sacred moment of revelation, Job's understanding expanded, and he recognized the indelible truth. The chaos he perceived in his own life mirrored the tumultuousness of creation, yet all was subject to the rule of the Almighty. The Lord paused, a silence full of glory enveloping them both. For even amidst chaos, my purpose prevails. In the roaring of the sea or the quaking of the earth, I am at work. But then, a compelling revelation unfolded. Job, even while I reveal these wonders, behold, a greater hand is knitting all moments together, and what you now see is but the veil over my sovereign plan. The trials you endure serve not just for your refinement but echo throughout the ages. As this truth sank into Job, the tension in his heart began to yield to an unshakable peace. He understood that within his suffering lay the preparation for something much grander, a covenant promise of restoration that would resound through the generations to come. But as he pondered these mysteries, God's voice rose again, declaring, "The story is not yet complete, for after Leviathan and Behemoth shall I not unveil the hope that awaits? The days are coming when the earth shall see my deliverance and the restoration of all that has been broken." And in that divine moment, Job leaned forward, heart racing with expectancy for what was to be revealed. What restoration awaited? What divine purpose would unfold from this truth? The answers were shrouded in heavenly purpose, and Job knew there was more to embrace in the ever-unfolding tapestry of God's sovereign plan, hidden yet beautifully evident to those with eyes to see. Then the Lord spoke once more, and each word reverberated with divine authority. "Job, you have stood in the shadow of creation, but now listen closely to the truths that lie deeper still. For creation's vastness is but a reflection of my infinite wisdom and a mere echo of the grace that is to come." The air trembled with anticipation as God continued, "You have seen the fearsome Leviathan and the mighty Behemoth, yet know this, they are not the greatest wonders of my handiwork. For I seek to mold hearts as I mold the clay, and it is to you, O Job, that I speak of renewal and hope." In that sacred moment, Job could feel the weight of divine promise budding within him. "What, O Lord, do you wish to reveal?" Job's heart stirred with questions even as he stood before the Almighty in reverent awe. "The world in which you dwell," God declared, "has been stained by the hands of men who turn from my ways. Yet even in this season of despair, I am planning a restoration that will echo into eternity. Know this, the Leviathan and the Behemoth are not random spectacles but part of a greater narrative which I weave through faithfulness and judgment." Job listened closely as God unfolded the deeper mysteries of his creation. "Consider the shadows of Leviathan in the waters, each ripple a testament to my day of reckoning, for in the end, even chaos has its purpose, every creature, every tempest speaks of my unhindered sovereignty." Job trembled, for within the depths of his pain, he sensed the flickering embers of hope begin to ignite anew. "And Behemoth," the Lord continued, "stands tall and unyielding amidst the earth, declaring even in silence that I am the giver of strength. This is a promise that in the days ahead, my people will rise unshaken as pillars of righteousness in the face of adversity." The presence of God enveloped Job, a sacred warmth that simmered with conviction. "But listen, Job," the Lord's voice softened, "greater still will be the days when my chosen one who will come from the line of David will rise in glory and splendor. It is him who shall tame Leviathan, and through him, the hearts of men will be lured from darkness into the light of my grace." With each utterance, Job felt the chains of despair loosening their grip. "Shall I not send forth a deliverer, a sovereign king, who will bring forth new life from ashes and weave together that which was shattered? And in him, all creation shall find its fulfillment." Job glanced at the vastness around him, the tumult of creation echoing back the words of the Creator. "And in their day, the paths shall be made straight, the mountains brought low, and every valley exalted. For my righteous purpose shall stand, unyielded and unbound by the trials that presently weigh upon you." At that moment, Job felt the stirring of a promise that transcended the suffering which clouded his vision. "Remain steadfast, for I am at work, my purposes are being fulfilled through the tapestry of your life." And though you do not yet see the full picture, behold, I have already written the conclusion. And with that divine exhale, God concluded, what I am preparing shall not only redeem you, but it shall usher in a season of restoration for all creation. Even the Leviathan and Behemoth shall bow in reverence, and in their submission, my glory shall be revealed. Filled with awe and wonder, Job stood in silence, the weight of the Almighty's words resonating deep within his soul. He realized with trembling reverence that even amid the trials, he held the promise of an unfolding legacy, a glorious covenant of hope that pointed toward the unseen, yet profoundly promised redemption. Thus God departed, leaving Job with a heart ready to embrace the glimpses of grace that would transform his trials into testimony. With newfound strength, Job was eager to uncover the greater truths yet to be unveiled in the sacred story of God's unwavering plan. Then Job, alone once more in the quiet of his despair, turned his gaze to the heavens, a heart now alight with the embers of hope ignited by the Lord's powerful declarations. The air around him seemed charged with possibility, and he began to reflect upon the significance of what had been spoken. Who is man, Job pondered aloud, that you, O Lord, are mindful of him? As the morning light broke over the horizon, illuminating the very dust of creation, Job sensed a stirring in his spirit. His trials had been many, yet in this moment of divine revelation, an unyielding certainty began to bloom within him, restoration was at hand. In the days that followed, Job's thoughts turned repeatedly to the Leviathan and Behemoth, those mighty creatures governed by the Creator's hand. Each night, as the stars pierced the dark expanse, he imagined the mighty Leviathan coiling in the depths of the sea, a creature that mirrored both the terror and beauty of creation itself. Surely, Job mused, even Leviathan is but a servant of your will, declaring your sovereignty. The ground beneath his feet resonated with the thudding might of the behemoth, proclaiming strength and steadfastness as it roamed the fields. Job felt small before such power, yet an overwhelming peace washed over him as he recognized the truth woven into the fabric of these beasts. They too were crafted by the Lord's design and were destined to bow in reverence. Then, in the stillness, a thought pierced through his heart like a sword. What of your promise, Lord? Will not deliverance come, just as the dawn chases away the night? In that moment, he understood the intertwined fates of creation and humanity. The great beasts were a foreshadowing of a coming redemption, echoing the promise made to his ancestors. Days turned into weeks, and Job found himself frequently in the company of friends who had long arrived to comfort him. Yet in their presence, his thoughts remained captivated by the revelation of God. What shall we say of our suffering? He posed unto them, boldly challenging their doubts. Is it not but a prelude to glory? Is it not a canvas for the unseen brush of grace? His friends were taken aback by his transformed heart, for they had come to see him as a man broken and battered, yet here stood Job, emboldened by the divine message. His countenance lit with a divine glow, and they listened, enraptured. From the very pit of my despair, I believe, Job declared, that the Lord shall manifest his power through my life. The air amongst them shimmered with the weight of prophecy, as if the heavens themselves poured forth their approval upon Job's words. He spoke of a coming one, a deliverer who would shatter the chains binding both man and beast alike. He wondered aloud how this Redeemer would tame the chaos of the Leviathan and establish peace with the behemoth. In him, he proclaimed, the earth will know its Maker and creation will join together to sing hymns of praise. As Job's voice echoed through the troubled air, the radiant promise of restoration sparked a flame of belief in their hearts. It was as if they too could sense the unfolding of God's sovereign plan, a tapestry being woven through history with threads of divine purpose interlaced with human experience. Yet, still lingering in the silence was a gnawing question, like a shadow chasing hope. What would it take for the Leviathan and Behemoth to bow? What would be the key to unlock the shackles of suffering that held creation captive? And so, with hearts uplifted yet longing for more, Job and his friends gathered their courage and set their minds towards understanding the mysteries still hidden from their eyes, as the heavens continued to watch in suspense, waiting for the day when the fullness of God's promise would finally unfold. And it came to pass that as Job stood amidst his friends, a hush fell over them, for the weight of his words lingered like incense in the air. The sun's rays poured golden light upon their faces, illuminating the hope that dared to dance upon the precipice of despair. Job's friends gazed upon him with astonishment, for they had witnessed a transformation ignited by the divine. Eliphaz, the Temanite, broke the solemn silence, saying, "Your words, Job, ring with the truth of heaven. Could it be that through our suffering, we glimpse the greater narrative woven by the Almighty?" "I too believe," interjected Bildad, "that beyond our pain lies the hand of the Lord, shaping us for a purpose." Zophar remained quiet, deeply moved, as his heart wrestled with the profound mystery resonating within those sacred words. "Indeed," Job replied, his voice firm yet tender, "let us seek the Lord together. In our lamentation, we shall find revelation. Are we not vessels of his plan? The Leviathan and Behemoth abide within his grasp. What might we learn from these creatures, for they are but emblems of his might?" As twilight descended, Job invited them to share in a gathering of prayer and reflection beneath the starlit heavens. The night enveloped them in silence, leaving space for the whispers of God to resonate. They spoke of the divine attributes reflected in creation, the power of the Almighty as the architect of the wild and untamed. "Consider the Leviathan," Job prompted, "how it swims in the deep and stirs the waters with its majesty. Does it not echo the unfathomable depths of God's wisdom?" "Aye," Eliphaz said, "for such grandeur reveals the perilous beauty of creation, compelling us to worship. The creatures of earth are displayed as wonders, yet we, too, are called to rise to greater understanding." In the stillness, Job continued to weave a tapestry of truth, recalling the words of old, "For I know that my Redeemer lives, and he shall stand at last on the earth." Job 19 verse 25. The firmament bore witness to his declaration, as if the stars themselves nodded in agreement. Suddenly, a deep rumble echoed from afar, unsettling the stillness, and a sense of awe swept over them. "Behold the world groaning," Job exclaimed, "for even now it awaits its deliverance. Might the very creation cry out for the coming of the one who holds all things together?" The friends' hearts trembled, for they sensed the weight of God's promise lying just beyond the veil of their understanding. They prayed fervently, seeking assurance from the Lord, petitioning for the wisdom to interpret the signs of the times. "Let us not forget," Bildad said softly, "that even in our tribulations, God can forge a new creation. These trials may lead us closer to the riches of his glory, purging our souls like silver in the furnace." Psalm 66 verse 10, "With each moment, the weight of God's glory pressed upon them, as if a door to heaven had cracked ajar, revealing rays of light piercing through thick darkness." Hope blossomed in Job's heart, swelling within him as an unquenchable fire. "There shall come a day," he declared, "when the behemoth will lie peacefully with the lamb, and all will be made new." Mystery hung in the air, and Job's anticipation built with each word spoken. Yet even as he dared to dream, a thought surged through him like a breath of the wind: what must be endured to see such glory unveiled? What further trials might prepare us for this promise? And thus, with hearts aflame, they dared to stand on the threshold of God's sovereign plan, eager to witness how the depths of pain might yield to the heights of grace. And it came to pass, as the heavens glimmered with the light of countless stars, that Job's gaze turned upward, his heart filled with fervent prayer. He sought the face of the Almighty, yearning for clarity in the clamor of his trials. "O Lord," he whispered into the stillness, "let thy purpose manifest before my eyes. For I long to discern the echo of thy footsteps in my affliction." The night deepened, and as the chill air settled, a sudden wind swept across the landscape, rustling the leaves like the whispers of angels. His friends, feeling the urgency in Job's prayer, huddled closer, their spirits entwined in a fragile unity. Eliphaz, breaking the silence, proclaimed, "Job, let us renew our cries to heaven. For the Lord delights in the prayers of the righteous, and in our unity, we shall seek his face. And in his presence," Bildad added, "we may find the strength to endure, for he is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble." Psalm 46 verse 1. Zophar, stirred from his contemplation, rose and proclaimed, let us recount the works of God. For even now, I perceive his hand at work. Look at the beasts of the field, behold the birds of the air. Are they not all under his dominion, even as we are? Job turned to his friends, affirming their declarations, truly, his wisdom surpasses our understanding, for as the Lord laid the foundations of the earth, so has he set a limit upon our suffering. His voice took on a prophetic tone as he recalled, with strength he established the world, he hung the mountains on nothing and weighs the waters in the palm of his hand. Isaiah 40 verse 12. Again, the deep rumble echoed, now closer, and Job's heart trembled. What if these groans are signals of his glorious revelation? What if the Leviathan and Behemoth are not merely creatures of the earth but divine symbols of his sovereignty? Could they not represent the trials we endure? As these thoughts unfurled, the friends stood wrapped with a mix of fear and awe, their spirits buoyed by the truths unveiled. Yes, Bildad affirmed, for in every creature, there lies a parable of our journey. The Leviathan with its might, shows us the strength we must summon, and the Behemoth teaches endurance. A hush fell again among them, as they dared to contemplate the ramifications of Job's insight. Job envisioned the Leviathan's dance upon the waves, a chaotic beauty that mirrored the tumult of life itself. Yet every wave is orchestrated by the hand of God, he murmured, each struggle amplifies his glory in our lives. With renewed vigor, they joined in a chorus of prayer, praising the one who is the creator of the heavens and the earth. Lord, they cried, help us to see thy purpose. Turn our despair into praise, and our mourning into dancing. Psalm 30 verse 11. As dawn approached, the first light began to break over the horizon, the darkness retreating. Job felt a stirring within him, it was as if the very air crackled with anticipation. Behold, he said, the morning cometh. Could it be that the Lord is preparing a path before us? A way through the valley of shadows? A way for us to enter the fullness of his promise? With hope ignited and hearts emboldened, they sensed that something profound awaited them just beyond their earthly pains. But what will it entail? Zophar asked, his voice trembling with conviction. Job looked into the distance, where the light began to meet darkness, illuminated by divine providence. Friends, let us prepare ourselves, he replied solemnly. For what lies ahead may be beyond our understanding, yet in his sovereignty, it shall unfold. And in the quiet that followed, a lingering truth took root in their hearts. All creation, from the mightiest beasts to the smallest seed, longs for the fulfillment of God's sovereign plan, leading them to the ultimate revelation of his glory. And it came to pass, as the dawn broke and the sun cast its golden rays upon the land, Job stood upon the precipice of hope. His heart beat fervently, emboldened by the prayers of his friends and the whispers of the Almighty that seemed to stir the very air around them. Shall we not ready ourselves? For the day brings forth greater clarity, he declared, as they turned their eyes toward the mountains which loomed solemn and steadfast. In that moment, a kaleidoscope of colors pierced the horizon, as if the heavens themselves rejoiced at the coming light. Job's spirit was stirred, for he felt a divine assurance washing over him. Eliphaz, filled with sudden inspiration, spoke, "Let us not forget that the Lord speaks through creation. Even as he formed the heavens and adorned the earth, he whispers to us in our distress, revealing his purpose through the grandeur of his works." Zophar nodded earnestly, "Indeed. As the sun rises, so must our understanding rise with it. Let us seek the lessons hidden within the depths of our trials." Bildad, with a look of contemplation, pondered aloud, "What then, dear friends, if we seek that which is mystical? If the Leviathan and Behemoth are symbols not only of the chaos we face but also of the sovereignty of our God? In their strength, might we find hints of his divine will? Job's eyes narrowed in focus. Verily, as the Leviathan stirs the sea, so too does our affliction stir the heart of God. The waters are turbulent, yet they hold a righteous purpose, akin to the trials that refine our spirits. With these solemn thoughts, they turned their faces back to the horizon where hope mingled with uncertainty. There, beneath the wide expanse of the open sky, the winds began to shift. The air thickened with an unspoken promise. Job called forth his friends, "Gather closer, let us walk together through this valley of shadows, that we may witness more of divine revelation." And so they moved forward, not knowing the terrors that awaited them, yet undergirded by faith. In those moments of transition, Job sensed the stirrings of profound truths bubbling to the surface within his spirit. The shadows danced playfully, yet they did not obstruct the light that beckoned from beyond. As the heat of the day rose, an echoing roar was heard through the valley, a sound like crashing waves, and they paused, apprehensive and alert. What is this tremor that shakes the very ground? Is it a sign? Bildad asked, eyes wide with fear and expectation. Job responded with fervor, "Fear not. For in the sound of mighty waters, we may hear the voice of our Lord. Though the earth trembles, his hand upholds it still." And as they pressed on, a thick fog rolled over the hills, cloaking them in mystery. Job felt an urgency pulse within him, a divine tugging of his heartstrings. Could it be, he mused aloud, that the unfolding of our trials is merely a stage for the revealing of God's glory? With that thought hanging in the air, a hush fell among them, binding their hearts as one in desperate anticipation. Each friend contemplated the myriad facets of the divine narrative unfolding before them. "Let us remain steadfast, for our God is not silent," Job proclaimed. "The very essence of our battles is designed for his eternal purpose. The time will come, I believe, when we shall witness the unblemished fruit of our perseverance." As the shadows danced lightly upon the earth, they realized that the light ahead was a promise of revelation, a promise now wrapped in the enigma of what lay ahead. For in every moment of doubt, their hearts cried for understanding, and in every trial, they thirsted for the fulfillment of a sacred truth. And so they moved forward, emboldened yet humble, keenly aware that in their seeking, the heart of God would reveal more than they could fathom, more than they could hope. Soon, they would understand that underneath their suffering lay the very roots of divine pioneering, leading them to the ultimate display of his grace and purpose. Then, as the dawn ascended the heights of heaven, a majestic light cascaded over the land, bathing Job and his friends in the warmth of divine revelation. In unison, they stood, hearts alive with the transformative truths the Almighty had unveiled. The shadows of doubt that once clouded their vision now gave way to clarity as the light of God's assurance illuminated their path. "Behold!" Job exclaimed, his voice resonating with exuberance. "The Leviathan stirs not for chaos's sake, nor does the Behemoth roam the plains without purpose. They are etched into the tapestry of God's sovereign plan, a mosaic reflecting his unyielding authority over creation." His friends, captivated by the fresh breath of hope, nodded in agreement. "Indeed," Bildad responded with holy reverence, "these magnificent beasts serve to remind us of the grandeur of God's majesty and his unwavering hand, even amidst our trials." With newfound understanding, Job and his companions gathered their courage, knowing that each experience of pain and suffering was but a prelude to an unmistakable glory yet to unfold. "Now let us venture forth," Job declared, emboldened by God's promises, "for the day of deliverance is at hand, not only for me but for all of creation." As they journeyed together, nature itself seemed to respond to their fervent whispers, the hills rang with praises, the trees swayed in praise, and the rivers flowed with jubilant laughter. "Creation eagerly awaits," Zophar spoke, eyes wide with wonder. "The groaning of the world echoes the cry for redemption." Job's spirit soared even higher, the winds that once carried despair now whispered of hope. "The Lord has set forth a promise that cannot falter. Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy." He felt the heaviness of his past burdens lifting, revealing the radiant potential of restored life that awaited them. And just as Job raised his eyes to the heavens, the skies erupted in a chorus of glory. "Lift your voices, my friends," he urged, "for the God who spoke creation into existence is weaving a new narrative born of grace." Their voices intertwined, merging in harmony with the symphony of the cosmos, each note resonating with faith and expectation. In those sacred moments, they sensed a deeper connection to the heart of God, a divine orchestration unfolding before their eyes. "What is man, that you are mindful of him?" Job mused aloud, his heart brimming with reverence. Yet here we stand, witnesses to God's unwavering love, a love that cradles us through our storms. Through the valleys and across the peaks, they celebrated the assurance of God's rule over the Leviathan and Behemoth, and over their own lives. In this new understanding, they recognized their trials as instruments of divine purpose, shaping them for the glory yet to be revealed. "Fear not," Job whispered, emboldened by the revelation igniting within him. "For the Lord will restore what has been broken, and my latter days shall be greater than my former." Each step forward was now filled with expectation, as they knew that the darkness that had once surrounded them would yield to a glorious dawn. And in the fullness of time, just as God had promised, a stirring began to unfold. With the sound of rushing winds and the cadence of divine footsteps, Job sensed an undeniable movement of the Spirit, a new life breaking forth from the ashes. "Look!" Bildad exclaimed, pointing toward the horizon, the sight of birds gathering overhead as if heralding a momentous event. "The heavens themselves declare confirmation of our hope." Job's heart raced with anticipation, for the promise of restoration lay just beyond the veil. What awaits us? He pondered aloud, standing firm in his faith. Perhaps the deliverer whose coming we envision shall soon unveil the fullness of God's love and purpose for creation. United in spirit, Job and his friends approached the sacred place where the earth met the heavens, a whisper of expectancy woven throughout their souls. As they knelt in prayer, surrendering their fears and hopes to the Almighty, the atmosphere shimmered with the promise of change, the promise of a restoration that encompassed every beast, every man, and every heart aligned toward the divine. In that holy moment, Job realized that the Leviathan and Behemoth were not merely symbols, but central components of a greater narrative. Their existence echoed the broad strokes of heaven's canvas, an invitation to witness the power of God through the trials endured. The awaited deliverer would tame and renew not only Job but all creation, shifting chaos to harmony. "Lord," Job cried, voice rising with fervor, "let your will be done. We stand in awe of your might and majesty, may the depths of our suffering yield an outpouring of praise." And God, who heard every cry echoing from the hearts of his faithful, began to weave the threads of his promises into a beautiful tapestry destined for glory, timeless, powerful, and undeniably transformative. Thus, with hearts set afire by expectation and promises fulfilled, Job and his friends bore witness to the truth that the God who created the Leviathan and Behemoth is the same God who walks alongside them in the valley, ever faithful, ever sovereign, bringing forth renewal and redemption for all who trust in his name. And the earth would resound with the echoes of his love, drawing all creation into a profound chorus of restoration, each note declaring, "For his mercy endures forever." As the sun dipped below the horizon with radiant grace, Job's heart soared amidst renewed hope, and the trials he endured began to pale in comparison to the bright promise that awaited him. The end was not merely a conclusion but the beginning of something far greater than humanity could fathom, a redemption echoing through all generations, resonating in the hearts of those called to love and serve the Almighty. With this fervent truth igniting their souls, they stood resolutely together, awakening to the reality of God's unfolding promise, laden with hope, anticipation, and faith that would echo throughout the annals of history. The greater story had only just begun. And beloved friends, as we reflect on this grand narrative, know that the call is upon us, for we are woven into this divine story of redemption as well. Now, if this message of hope has stirred your heart, I invite you to respond. Subscribe immediately to our channel, so you won't miss the next powerful biblical stories that continue to reveal God's faithfulness. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm to seekers of truth everywhere. Comment below with your reflections and testimonies how this breathtaking story has impacted your faith, for the sharing of testimonies sharpens us as believers. And most urgently, share this uplifting message instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's unwavering truth today. This is the moment to help broadcast biblical truth and ignite a revival of faith across our world. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony. The time is now.